Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So today is, I think, episode 4 for the How to Become a Pro Makeup Artist series here on my YouTube channel. So today we are all going to be talking about the base makeup. So I already have my eyes done. I have actually 2 different eye looks on right now because I'm kind of picking an eye look to wear on the Easter. So that's why I have 2 eye makeup looks on right now. So like I said, we are going to be focusing on base makeup today. So I already have my skin nice and prepped, and I also have a lip combo on. Now we're gonna start with a primer. So my favorite primer to use. So this whole base makeup routine I like to do on myself and on if I'm gonna do someone else's makeup. This is the routine that I like to do for the base makeup. So I'm gonna start with a primer. So I have oily skin, so I'm gonna use the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. This is one of my favorite face primers. I really like this one, but I'm someone who doesn't really like to use primers for an everyday look. I like to use them more for like an evening out look, because I feel like my skin prep is the perfect base for my makeup application, so I kind of skip over the primer. But what I'm going to do is I'm only going to apply this basically where I get oily, so that's pretty much just in the T-zone. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my fingers. I'm really going to press this in. I found out that this really helps control the oils throughout the day, and it really helps to have my makeup stay throughout the day as well. I really spend time just to press this into my skin. I feel like my T-zone is the only place where it gets really oily, so I leave everywhere else alone. Basically where I have larger pores, so it's like here in the under eye area, in the T-zone. Okay, now we're gonna go into foundation. My favorite one for my skin type, which is, I have oily skin, but it's not that oily, so it's just like in the T-zone normal usually. So I love to use the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. This is one of my favorite foundations. I absolutely love it. So I'm gonna actually put some on. Actually, I'm gonna do back of my hand. So I'm gonna about 2 squirts on the back of my hand, and I like to take. I don't really like to here. Okay, so I don't really like to press foundation in anymore with my beauty blender, because I feel like I can do the same thing with my brush. Just like if I need to go in with the beauty blender to press everything in, I can. But typically, I only press things in with my brush, because I feel like you can get the same effect with the beauty blender with the brush if your technique is right. I like to just press foundation in, because if I swipe, then I get like that brush marks on when I apply the foundation. So tapping in, it helps with longevity and with the brush marks, and I don't really have any brush marks when I press the foundation in. I'm really spending time to press the foundation in, so it really looks like my skin, but better. Okay, now that the foundation is nice and pressed in, I'm gonna go in and let's do some color correcting. Or let's do some concealer. So what I like to do is, for an everyday makeup look, I like to use only correctors, and then if I have any blemishes, like I have a couple today, I'm going to use a concealer for that. I'm only going to use a color corrector under the eye for a everyday makeup look, and then when it's more of like a glam evening out look, I go in with concealer and corrector. But today I'm going to use the e.l.f. Putty Color Correcting Eye Brightener, and I love this color corrector. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to use to apply it, I'm going to use the Sigma E60 brush. I'm just going to go right in this area where I have a little bit of discoloration. Now, if I didn't have any eye makeup on right now, I would also take this on the lids after I would prime the eye, or I usually, when it's an everyday look, I don't prime the eyes if I am not using a face primer or an eye primer. I would just go in, I would like put my eye cream on the lids as well, and then I would go in with a corrector, but today I am not. Okay, so I let the corrector kind of sit for a second, and then I'm going to take a concealer. One of my favorite concealers is also from Nars. This is the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer, one of my favorites. I'm going to take some of that on the back of my hand, and I'm going to actually spot conceal. I'm going to use the Sigma F70 brush and just go in areas where there's not any blemish areas. Then I like to take a brush like this. This is my favorite brush for under eye concealer or any type of concealer if I'm blending in the concealer that I use for spot concealing. I'm just going to buff that in, again, patting motions for if you want to have your makeup really kind of for longevity, like stay all day, you want to really do patting motions. So I'm gonna now blend in the under eye. I really like this brush. This brush is shaped like a finger, so it's like really nice and easy to get in the inner corner, the under eye. Now we're gonna go into bronzing. So I'm gonna take my e.l.f. Putty Bronzer, and I'm going to take actually my favorite this is a contour brush, but I actually use it for bronzing. Bronzing and contouring. This is the Sigma F40 brush. So I'm gonna dip into the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer. This one is in where the tan lines, and again, I'm going to press this into the foundation. I'm gonna start on the forehead, and I just really like to press. Sometimes I do a tiny bit of the sweeping motion, but typically I would only kind of press this in. I'm gonna kind of get really up close to the hairline so there's no skipping. I'm gonna pick up some more of the bronzer, and now I'm going to actually switch to another mirror because I'm going to basically press this onto the cheek, but I'm not gonna go right on the hollow of the cheek. I'm gonna go a little bit above because I want to also place a contour shade. I'm gonna go basically above the cheekbone, and again, pressing that in. I might have gone a little bit too high. And I'm also going to go on the jawline with this, and again, that pressing motion. But I'm gonna go into a contour shade. I'm going to take the RCMA foundation palette. I'm going to take this shade right here. This is the perfect shade for my skin tone for a contour. I'm going to take a small amount of this first, and then I'm only going to place it kind of right in the center of the hollows of my cheeks and press that in. Do the same thing and press that in on the other side. Okay, then what I like to do after all of this is done, my concealer's done, my contour and bronzing is done, I'm gonna go in with the foundation brush that we used earlier for the foundation and just start kind of melting everything together and to kind of just get rid of any harsh lines. Now I'm actually going to go into the same color that we just used in the RCMA palette, and I'm going to contour my nose. Okay, so another thing that I really like to do for longevity is I like to kind of layer my setting sprays. So I'm going to take the Revolution Hydrate and Fix Radiance Makeup Fixing Spray and just spray a light layer of this all over. Okay, so I'm going to let this kind of be for a little bit so it can dry down, and then we can go on to cream blush. Okay, one of my favorite cream blushes is the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush. This is in the shade Belize, I think it's called. I don't know. My favorite brush to apply cream blush is the Morphe & Ariel brush number A22. So I'm going to pick up some of the blush a tiny bit. I'm just going to kind of press this to the apple of the cheek. And then again, I'm going to go in and press the blush in with the foundation brush that we used. And you can go back in with the blush and apply a little bit more if you need to. Now it's time to set. So I'm going to go in with one of my favorite brush and powder that I like to use for setting. So I'm going to use the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Loose Powder. This is in the shade Sugar Cookie, and I'm going to use it with the Morphe and Ariel brush number A14. So I'm going to tap off the excess. I'm only going to be placing this, or setting the T-zone with this, and I made sure to press any creases out. And I like to go around my nose too, because that's typically I get oily there a little bit, and on my nose as well. And then I'm also going to place this, set my forehead, the center of the forehead, and then I'm going to now set all of the powder or cream stuff that with powder versions of. So I'm going to take my powder bronzer. This is the Colorpop matte bronzer in Avila Beach, and I'm going to use the Sigma F30 brush. So I'm going to start on the forehead. I'm going to apply a tiny bit to the cheeks, and then also the jawline. Once we have the powder bronzer down, I'm going to take a powder blush. I'm going to use the Malini Baked Blush in Luminoso. This is one of my favorite blushes. I absolutely love it. And this does have a little bit of shimmer to it. Typically, I would put my highlight in a little, when I'm highlighting, I would put a tiny bit just on the apple of the cheek if I'm wearing a matte blush, which today I'm not, so I'm not going to do that. And then I'm going to go in with my foundation brush that we used just to kind of blend a little bit. Then what I like to do is I'm going to go back to the Huda Beauty powder and set the outsides of the face with this. And that sometimes kind of tones down the blush too if I went too heavy, which today I kind of a little bit did. And then I'm going to go again with the Revolution setting spray. Okay, for a powder highlight, I've been loving to use an eyeshadow, especially from the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to take actually a little bit of Enlight and Beam, which is these two shades, and combined, I think they're a perfect highlighting shade. So I'm going to take those two shades, mix them together, and first I'm going to go on the high points of the cheek. And like I said earlier, since I'm wearing a blush that has a little bit of shimmer to it, I'm not going to apply the highlight kind of on the apple because it already has a little bit of shimmer. So I'm going to go kind of on the side of the forehead with the highlight above the brow, or the arch of the brow. Same thing to the other side. Oh, and I'm using a brush from Sonia Kashuk, by the way. I'm going to do the tip of the nose and then the bridge of the nose. I don't like to have a huge strip of highlight because that just looks weird. I'm going to do the Cupid's bow and then the top of the chin. With another brush, I'm going to take, just from EcoTools, this is the large smudger brush, and I'm going to take that in the inner corner, the same two eyeshadow shades, and just apply that in the inner corner. I love to add that in the inner corner, or the highlight in the inner corner. It looks so great, and it just brightens up the inner corner. And then what I actually like to do, I'm going to go back in with the foundation brush that we used. I'm basically using this as a beauty blender, but it's a brush. I found out that I don't really like to use beauty blenders that much anymore. Brushes do the same exact thing if you use them properly. Then I actually do two different types of setting sprays. I ordered one on Amazon that it's going to be coming on Thursday, so I'm so excited. But for now, that's why I used this one for today's video. Typically, I would go with the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray and then another setting spray. So I'm going to shake it up, and then I'm going to spray this. I'm going to let that dry down. I'm going to do one last powder application to really have the makeup stay and last all day. So I'm going to wait for this to dry. Okay, so again, I'm going to go in with the same Huda Beauty powder and the same fluffy brush. This is the Sigma F30 brush. Or actually, let's go in with the Morphe and Ariel brush number A14 because I only want to place the powder in the T-zone or where I typically get oily. So that was it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and see you guys in the next one. Bye!